Welcome everyone to the ASEA Center. I am Crystal Fredericks. And we want to welcome you here. We have a lot of guests today, which is really exciting. And our presenter is Dr. Karl Smith. He is a member of the Medical Professionals Board, and he has had his practice here in the local area for 27 years. So without further ado, Dr. Karl.
Thanks. Okay. Well, tonight we're gonna. Who's excited to be here? Woo! We got drunk here. Okay. All right. My name's Dr. Karl Smith. I'm a chiropractor, and Denny Robinson told me about this way back in December of 2008, 2009, and I politely blew her off for 15 months. Okay, and you know, finally I told her I'd take a serious look at it, and I came to a meeting like this actually, and I saw some people there told some stories that got my attention. And so it was significant enough where I said, okay, I'll research this. If it makes sense, I'll start using it myself and possibly start using my practice. I started using my practice in May of 2011, and it's been the best decision I could have made for my patients, best decision I could have made for my practice. So it really is quite a breakthrough, and we're going to talk about ASEA tonight, the most significant wellness breakthrough in our lifetime. And that's a very bold statement, but hopefully when we get done tonight, you'll understand a little bit more why there's some validity in that statement. It covers wellness, athletic performance, skin care, and with every great breakthrough comes a massive opportunity. We're going to talk a little about the opportunity as well. So what is ASEA and how does it work and why do I need it? That's what we're going to try and cover tonight. Hopefully you'll walk away with those questions answered. So first of all, what is it? Before I tell you what it is, it's important that you understand what it's not. ASEA is not a vitamin, it's not a mineral, it's not an antioxidant, it's not some new exotic juice or berry. It's also not a new kind of water. You know, a lot of times when I explain this to people, they say, oh, is this kind of like? And the answer is always the same, it's always no, okay, because it isn't like anything else that's ever been out there. It's completely different. So what is it? It's the world's first and only redox signaling supplement. I'd never heard of redox signaling before ASEA came along, and I know a little bit about it now, and hopefully when we get done tonight, you will as well. So the first place I went was PubMed.gov. PubMed.gov is the largest database of refereed medical journal articles on the planet. And I typed in redox signaling. At the time, there were about 6,800 articles that were published on redox signaling. And I thought, well, that's good. At least so someone knows about this. I'm not the only one. And I started researching it, and when I got an understanding of what this was and how it plays a part in the health and healing of our cells, I really got excited about it. And now there's over 16,000 articles. There's actually about 200 new articles coming out every single month. It's a very hot topic in cutting-edge academic science. There's specific journals that are just dedicated towards redox signaling. So what is redox signaling? If you look at a cell is basically a bag of salt water. And inside that cell, you got a lot of different things that happen depending on what kind of a cell it is. One thing that all cells have in common is they have these little organelles called mitochondria. Who remembers mitochondria from high school biology, right? Okay, mitochondria, the power plants for the cell, they produce a little energy molecule called ATP. Well, they make that ATP through a very complex series of chemical reactions known as the Krebs cycle. Well, during that Krebs cycle is also when they produce redox signaling molecules. Redox stands for reductive and oxidative, and so there's a combination of reductive molecules and oxidative molecules. And basically, when I learned the Krebs cycle, when I was going to school a long time ago, we learned that those little byproducts that were coming off were just a waste product that had no significance whatsoever. Well, about 25 some years ago, they discovered, wait a minute, when those molecules come off the mitochondria, they're in this different bioactive state. They do something, and then they actually turn back into salt water. So they set out to discover what do these molecules do while they're in that bioactive state, what's their purpose, what's their function. That's become the science of redox signaling. Well, what they do are kind of twofold. There's two different sets of molecules. The first set are antioxidant activators. Everybody's heard of antioxidants? Antioxidants are why we get our colorful, healthy fruits and vegetables. And what they do is they protect us against something called free radical attacks. A free radical is a molecule that comes in and either takes or gives away an electron that causes damage when it does that. And that damage ends up resulting in inflammation. So when we don't have enough antioxidant protection, we end up with inflammation. And turns out that these antioxidants have to have the proper charge before they can absorb that free radical attack. The way they get the proper charge is they come in contact with the redox signaling molecule. It charges them, they can absorb an attack, and they can protect your cells that way. Well, as we age, we have less and less antioxidants being charged correctly or being lit up like they're supposed to. It's kind of like a light switch. You turn on the light switch, the electricity turns on the light bulbs. When a antioxidant comes into contact with the redox signaling molecule, it charges it so it can actually do its job and absorb that free radical attack. So as we make less of this, we light up fewer antioxidants, and the result is we're more susceptible to those attacks, and we're more susceptible to inflammation. And wherever you have inflammation, it'll eventually catch up with you. The second set of molecules are signaling molecules, and when a cell's created, it does its job, chugs along and works hard, and over time, something goes wrong with it. Anybody ever had that happen to their car? Okay. Eventually, over time, something goes wrong. And when the cell is damaged, it lets off a signal called oxidative stress. Well, the second set of molecules, they detect when there's a problem with the cell. When they detect a problem, they begin to signal. And that's why these are called signaling molecules. If it's a small problem, it signals to bring nutrients in to repair that cell and get it back to 100%. If it's a big problem or a cell that's too old to be repaired, it actually will signal to destroy that cell and then signal the surrounding tissue to replace it with a brand new healthy cell. Okay? So you can see how these molecules, these redox signaling molecules, they really play an integral part in protecting, detecting, repairing, and replacing damaged cells. If we're out of balance in this protect, detect, repair, replace in any way, we'll end up with problems. If we don't have enough protection, then we end up with inflammation. And whenever you have inflammation, it will eventually catch up with you. If you have chronic inflammation in your joints, what happens? They get stiff and achy and sore. We have a name for that, right? Arthritis. If it's in your digestive system, you may have gastritis, you may have colitis, you may have diverticulitis. You ever know somebody with disease enteritis?
Yeah.
Why is that? What does itis mean? And that's why antioxidants have received so much attention in the last 20 years, is they really help us to protect us against that inflammation. Okay? So this detect, repair, replace, if that's not working right, if those cells that are damaged aren't being detected, they're left on their own. And when they're left on their own, they're given a chance to replicate. And when damaged and unhealthy cells replicate out of control, it gives us a whole different set of problems. So redox signaling molecules are the molecules that run this protect, detect, repair, replace at the cellular level. So I hope you're starting to see how this really truly is quite a breakthrough. The whole miracle of ASEA is they've stabilized those molecules in their bioactive form. When they're produced in the body, they're in that bioactive form, some of them for just millionths of a second. They do their thing and they're turned back into salt water just very quickly. Well, the miracle of ASEA is they've taken those, the only ingredients in ASEA is salt and water. So they take salt and water and they break apart the bonds of the molecules, they recombine them in a set of reductive molecules and a set of oxidative molecules, and they stabilize them in that bioactive form, and that's exactly what ASEA is. When they did this, they said, you know, they sent a letter to the University of Utah Research Medical Facility and said, hey, we've stabilized redox signaling molecules in their bioactive form. All the professors, all the scientists there said, no, you haven't. It's impossible. That can't be done. They said, well, let us send you some. So they sent them some ASEA. They ran it through their multi-million-dollar mass spectrometer, and sure enough, they got a letter back certifying and said, okay, you know, these are redox signaling molecules stabilized in their bioactive form. Now, how did you do it? And that's they've got 33 patents in the process to take regular salt and water and turn it into redox signaling molecules stabilized in their bioactive form. Okay. A lot of times you'll hear on the internet, oh, it's just salt water. Anybody ever heard that? Okay. So, just for a quick analogy, if I had a brown paper sack up here and I was shaking it around and I said, this sack is full of carbon. Okay, who will give me $1,000 for this brown paper sack full of carbon? Anybody want to do that?
If it's diamonds.
Exactly, okay? It could be a lump of coal, or it could be a whole bunch of diamonds, okay? Is there a difference between coal and diamonds? But it's just carbon, okay? Well, redox signaling molecules are the, diamonds of salt water. Okay, does that make sense? So they're produced in our 40,000 square foot manufacturing facility. We've got the capacity to make $800 million worth of product annually in that. So we're geared up and really ready to go. So what is redox signaling and how does it affect me? A lot of times people say, well, if all my cells have this mitochondria, they're all producing these redox molecules, why would I ever need to supplement with them directly? It doesn't make sense. Well, it turns out our mitochondria peak efficiency a couple of years after puberty, okay? Anybody in here gone through puberty? Okay. So as we do that, our mitochondria become less efficient. The result is we end up producing less of these molecules. As we produce less, our ability to be able to protect, detect, repair, and replace damaged cells begins to diminish. It just becomes more difficult to heal as you age. And the analogy that I like to use is the show Extreme Home Makeover. Who's seen that show? Everybody? It's a great show, a lot of emotion, screaming and crying. And they take a beat-up home and they turn it into really a masterpiece in about a week's time. And the new family moves in and it's quite a deal. Well, it's like a miracle what they can accomplish in 1 week. And the reason they can do that is because they've got all the materials on site and they also have all the labor, okay? They've got a crew of 1,000 people locally that volunteer around the clock to put in the labor required to make that transformation happen. Well, it requires the same thing to heal and repair your cells. You need the materials, but you also need the labor. Now, materials we're all familiar with. That's everything we eat in our diet, supplement with nutritionally. Those are the building blocks for new cells and materials required to build and repair damaged cells. Well, you also need labor, but no one ever has really talked about labor, okay? Because there was really nothing to talk about because there was nothing we could do about it. The way your body performs labor is you produce these redox molecules, they detect the problem, and then they signal to put those materials to work. And what happens is as we peak our production of those molecules and we start to go down the other side, it's like our labor force is getting smaller and smaller. And there's nothing we could do about it, okay? Until now. The real miracle of ASEA is they've stabilized those same molecules. When you supplement with them, you can get those levels back up to where they were when you were younger. But what I've seen in my practice in the last 7 years is people that are 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, they get on this and they start to heal like Extreme Home Makeover. And it's been nothing short of miraculous. And I tell Denny that I'm more excited about this now 7 years into it than was when I first got started. And I think that really speaks volumes about this. So this really came to the forefront 4 years ago now. Dr. James Watson, who's known as the father of DNA, published a study in The Lancet. And he won the Nobel Prize for the double helix configuration of DNA. And when he comes out with something, it gets a lot of media attention because of who he is. Well, this got reported on a lot of different news sources, and the headlines were all, Dr. James Watson, the father of DNA, has come up with a radical new theory behind the cause of a range of diseases. And specifically, the title of his article was Type 2 Diabetes is a Redox Disease. Now, I want to be real clear, we're going to mention a few diseases here, but ASEA is not a treatment or cure for any diagnosed medical conditions or diseases. Only FDA-approved drugs can claim cures. This is not an FDA-approved drug, and we're going to go into why that is a little later. But the title of his article was Type 2 Diabetes is a Redox Disease. And in his article, he brought out how cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and dementia, he referred to all four of those as redox diseases. And his radical new theory is as we age, our mitochondria become less efficient at producing these molecules. And if we could produce more, and he basically went on to explain physiologically how that contributes to cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and dementia. Okay? Does this sound pretty significant? Well, his purpose in writing the article is he asked Richard Branson for $1 billion so he could open up a research facility and study how we could live our lives and maximize our production of redox signaling molecules as we age. Okay? And I think that's fantastic, and I think that's a worthy goal. But the exciting thing is we've stabilized those molecules in their bioactive form, and you can supplement with them directly. Who thinks that's exciting?
Wow.
Okay, so then ASEA is very dedicated to research. They just finished a genetic study with Torrent Laboratories, and basically what they found out is, when they first mapped out the genome, they thought we're going to be able to do this, and we're going to be able to take a little baby and look at their DNA, and we're going to, okay, he's going to have cancer when he's 57, he's going to have diabetes, and be able to map it all out. But guess what they found out? It's only about 3% of the diseases or less are actually genetic, okay, which has brought this whole other field of study called epigenetics, okay? And epigenetics are basically how the environment and what we're exposed to, both in our nutrition and the thoughts that we think, the experiences we have affect our genetics, okay? And the studies now are talking about genetics in a way of being able to turn on and turn off genetic potential. So they did an 8-week study on ASEA where they gave people 4 ounces twice a day, so 8 ounces a day of ASEA for 8 weeks, and they measured all of these different genetic pathways. And at the end of the study, they found out that the 8 weeks of being on ASEA, we turned on some pretty key areas of genetic pathways. The first one is the immune system, okay? So this will help to boost your immune system. Who thinks it's important to have a healthy immune system? Mm-hmm. Do you want one just today or for the rest of your life? Inflammatory response, we knew that was going to happen because the antioxidant effect and how that really, they knew that from the beginning. But boy, when you can reduce inflammation as you age, life is a lot better. That's all there is to it. Hormone modulation, who thinks it's great to have balanced hormones throughout their whole life? Anybody ever had a problem with that? Okay. Cardiovascular, that's the #1 killer right now is cardiovascular health. They found out that this turns on the genes that help to make your cardiovascular system, all your arteries and veins more elastic and more pliable. The problem we run into is when they plaque up and they become stiff and they eventually occlude and it gives us problems. So if we can keep those more pliable, that's a very exciting thing. And the last one is digestive system, okay? Who thinks life's better when you have a functioning, happy, healthy digestive system? It sure makes a big difference, something nobody wants to talk about, but the reality is when it's working good, things are good. When it's not working good, it's a problem. And they're finding out now that your digestive system is pretty darn important, okay? There's this thing called the vagus nerve. It's a cranial nerve that comes out of your brain and goes down, and it's vagus from the word vagabond because it goes all throughout your digestive system, in other areas too, but basically your digestive system. And forever they thought, well, this nerve is really important because that's what runs your digestive system. About 5 years ago, guess what they discovered? 95% of those fibers on that nerve go from the digestive system to the brain. So who's running who? Kind of interesting, okay? So, and I think it's pretty significant when you have a product that it's a supplement and it can list those 5 things right on the label, okay? So there's a lot of credibility there after the study was published. So those are the 5 areas, and basically in 8 weeks, and the thing that was significant is it showed that they went up in 8 weeks to this increase in genetic potential, and they took them off it, and they measured it 8 weeks later, and they found out they went back to their baseline. Okay, so you think you want to turn those genes on for one day, or you want to keep them turned on for the rest of your life? Mm-hmm. I wish they would have done it every week or something so we could see if it came up and went down. They don't know that yet, but hopefully in the future we'll get that figured out. So then something happened they weren't expecting. They got this product out to people. Athletes started taking it, and they said, man, what's in this stuff? I'm training harder. I'm recovering quicker. So they did a bunch of studies on athletes with endurance, strength, recovery, mental stamina, fat loss, and muscle gain. And what they found out is that within 30 minutes of taking ASEA, some pretty significant things happened. They did these little study with mice, and they ran them to exhaustion on a treadmill, measured how far they could run, and then they put half of them on a placebo and half of them on ASEA for a week. I think it's significant to bring out this placebo they used was salt water. Salt and water in the exact same concentration as ASEA, except it wasn't redox sigma molecules stabilized in their bioactive form. They put the rats on it, or mice on it, for a week, and then they ran them again. And after 1 week, the mice on ASEA were able to run 29% further compared to the control group, compared to what they ran just in 1 week. The reason they were able to do that is when you ingest this, they did some metabolomic studies that show that when you take it, within 30 minutes, you begin to mobilize fat from your abdomen. That fat goes into the bloodstream in the form of medium chain free fatty acids. Anybody ever heard that term, medium chain free fatty acids? Everybody's trying to learn how to burn more of those right now. That's what, anybody ever use coconut oil? That's why you're using coconut oil, to increase your ability to burn medium chain fatty acids. Well, you do it automatically with the ASEA. When you start burning fat, first of all, who thinks burning fat's a good idea? It's okay with everybody. You produce ATP, which is the energy that fuels cells about 6 to 8 times more efficiently. And so you end up with more fuel for your muscles to fuel your athletic activity. The second thing is when you burn fat as a fuel source as opposed to carbohydrates, you don't produce a little molecule called lactic acid. Anybody ever heard of lactic acid? Anybody ever felt lactic acid? Okay, that's what makes your muscles burn. It's what makes you really stiff and achy and hard to get out of bed the next day. Okay, that lactic acid is built up in your muscles. So if you can burn less lactic acid, you can train harder, longer, with a quicker recovery. So now the other thing that goes on into this is really the most energy demanding thing we do is heal. Who's ever been really sick before? Nobody in this room, right? Okay. What was your energy level like? Remember that feeling when you're down and out? It's a struggle to get out of bed. It's a struggle to do anything. The reason that is all of your energy, all of your ATP is being used to fuel that healing. And that takes precedence over fueling your skeletal muscles. That's why you just want to lay in bed and do nothing, okay? Well, now think about it. If you start taking this, all of a sudden you produce that ATP, your ability to fuel that healing process is increased by 6 to 8 times, okay? So if you're not sick, you can fuel that to do athletics. But that's how this really does play a part in being able to boost our ability to heal. So we got lots of amazing athletes in this, and they have an athletic call once a month or something like that. Okay, an athletic call. Anyways, this is Sean Burke down here in the corner. He's a physical therapist over here in Coeur d'Alene, and he started taking this, it's been about the same time I did, about 7 years ago. And when he took it, he was getting ready to do his 18th Ironman. And in his mind, it was going to be his last one because he had turned 50 years old. And in his words, he said, man, I was taking ibuprofen by the handfuls. I know that wasn't good for me, but I had to take it in order to be able to train and be able to work the next day, because otherwise I'd be so sore I couldn't go to work, and I just couldn't do that. So he gets on ASEA about 6 weeks before his supposed last Ironman. And about a few weeks into it, he quits taking ibuprofen completely. He starts to increase how he's training. And before he ran that 18th Ironman, he got back to training at 50 years old like he was training back in college. Hadn't done that in decades, okay? He does his 18th Ironman. He's actually able to take 58 minutes and 38 seconds off his time from 49 to 50 years old. Who wants to get some gains like that? Put him in a whole new level of competition. This is Sean here, this little pouch of ASEA. He sent me an email that had 14 things in it that he'd noticed had improved in his life once he started ASEA. I thought this quote was the most significant. He said, my training is no longer being controlled by the fatigue and soreness of my body. I'm now able to train by the determination of my mind. This is a whole new level of training for me at age 50. He went on that year to set 9 personal records, okay? A personal record is where you've been competing in the same events for years and years, and you set your best time. Most of those times he set in his 20s and 30s. He broke 9 of those records at 50 years old after being on ASEA. Doesn't that sound like he's getting younger? Okay, but we're all athletes, and we're all doing things, and we may not measure our time on things, but we know how we feel after we do certain things. And who doesn't want to have more energy and more stamina and more ability to interact with others and do whatever it is that makes us happy? Ready for this one? This is my dad.
Woo! Love that one.
This was August last year, 2017, in Lake Powell. He's out wake surfing with his kids, his grandkids, and his great-grandkids. So, who wants to have some glory days like that, okay? What do they call it? The golden years? Those are some good golden years. My dad's been on ASEA for 7 years. He didn't want to get on it because I don't have any health problems, but I'm telling you right now, he is stronger and more vibrant now than he was 7 years ago. It's pretty exciting. So they have this unique patented technology of redox signaling molecules. They came up with another application for it called Renew 28. And basically all they did is they took the same technology and they thickened it with a clay and then pH stabilized it to make a gel that you could put on topically. Okay? The reason they did that is these molecules are very effective at detecting, repairing, replacing damaged cells. Does anybody have any damaged skin cells? We get a few of those as we age. Okay. Well, they made this to basically, because that's a very big market. They did the studies on it. Once again, they're definitely very committed to research. Their skin renewal increased by 16%. That's very significant. When we're little babies, we have the fastest skin renewal of our lives. And as we age, our cells begin to renew slower and slower and slower. That's what aging is when you age faster than you can repair and replace. And that's when we show signs of aging. Okay. Well, when we can turn the clock back 16%, that's almost like you're literally getting 16% younger. Okay, who thinks that's exciting? Increase in smoothness in your skin by 23%, decreasing wrinkles 23%, increasing the elasticity. That's another thing. You start off with a certain amount of elastin in your skin, and then over time it goes back. So once again, turning back the clock by 20%. This is a big one. Blood flow by 50%. They did the study where they took Renew 28 on one arm, nothing on the other arm, and they measured the subcutaneous blood flow. And after after 4 days, they were able to measure a 50% increase in blood flow to the skin on the side that they were doing Renew 28 on. When you're talking about any kind of skin conditions or any problems like that, if you can increase blood flow to the area, it's really going to have a significant impact. So, and I'm telling you, you can look on the internet. There's just Google Renew 28 and click on images, and you can just go for page after page, and seeing really is believing. Is that pretty significant? People, I tell everyone that everybody needs to drink this stuff. That's all there is to it. Once you understand what it is, if you really understand what it is, you'll figure out a way to drink this stuff because it's that big of a deal. But with Renew 28, all you got to do is say, hey man, check out a few of these pictures. Everyone goes, hey, I'll try that. Because it's easy when you can just see it right in front of you. Scarring is really significant, especially with what I do. Because we have scars not just in our skin that you can see, but you also have scars on the inside. Okay? And when you get a whiplash injury or when you get injured with your hip or your knee or whatever, what ends up happening is you end up with scar tissue in those joints, and that's another thing that makes them stiff and sore and achy. And a lot of times they'll be permanently achy like that. Well, if you can break up that scar tissue, guess what? You start to get more motion in those joints, okay? I've had several old golfers in my office that get on ASEA, and they go, well, it's kind of messing up my game because I'm turning farther now, okay? But that's the key to golf, is being able to keep that rotation, so it's a good thing. And there's lots of other topics on scars as well. But like I said, seeing is believing. It just goes on page after page. This is a doctor who was very skeptical, so he decided to do his own placebo-controlled study. He put Renew 28 on half of his face for 28 days and didn't on the other half. At the end of 28 days, his wife said, why don't you start putting it on both sides? Okay. So now they've come up with a whole face line. This one was just kind of it's kind of a topical thing to put on skin and help it to detect, repair, and replace damaged cells. They came out with a cleanser, and then you use Renew 28, and then you use a high-intensity redox signaling serum for specific areas that you want to target, and then a moisturizer that enhances the redox signaling. It has more of the materials that will help the redox signaling work better. So they have a whole, and the research they're doing on the whole skin regimen is even better than Renew 28 by itself. So, oops, that's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
So tune in tomorrow and find out what's going on, okay? See, we've got some new stuff coming out. So now we're going to hear some stories or some testimonials. Do we have one picked out, Denny?
I don't have one picked out today, but is there someone who'd like to share?
We'd like to volunteer and give us a minute and tell us their experience on ASEA.
Their complaint
I can tell you
testimony.
some. I can tell
All
you
right.
a few.
Do you want to come up front?
Well, so I'm going to be having a birthday pretty soon. But anyway, I'm in my later 50s. But so less than 2 years ago, I had a total hip replacement on my right side due to a ski accident about 8 years ago. So before that, I started taking ASEA. Right when that happened, it was about 8 years ago, and Denny was like, "You got to try this." So tore the labrum. I was doing great, but like any antioxidant, the science wasn't there. Signed up a few people because I felt great, and then I stopped taking it just because it's just like, okay, I feel great, I'm good. So ended up getting arthritis in my hip about 4 years after that. Had a total hip replacement, rehabilitated myself, and I felt good. However, I was kind of getting arthritis in my other hip, just not really feeling great, and then started taking ASEA, and my life changed. All the inflammation went out of my body, and I also had an inflammation in my cheek, which I'm working out again, so I have a little inflammation in my body, not as much as I would start, getting right back into the so it has changed my life once again. The hip replacement was a blessing to me because I couldn't imagine not lifting and carrying my grandchildren. But now, like, I can run, I can jump. I just went hiking 2 days in a row with my grandchildren in Colorado, and it has changed my life. And I have people that I've signed up just recently